The Strain episode 4 is over, but we're just getting started here on The Strain Live on post-show recaps. And here are the two guys who are going to take your mind off of any Ebola concerns you may have at this hour. Rob Cesternino and Josh Wigler. Josh, how are you doing? Ready to talk The Strain?
I'm ready to talk The Strain. Now I'm worried about Ebola.
Oh, no. Oh boy! Oh boy!
You really screwed with my mojo before this thing started.
I know. No, don't worry. This is going to be a nice distraction from any bad stuff in the world because we're going to talk.
But Ebola doesn't get rid of my my male parts, does it?
Well, I think it actually might.
Does it really?
I don't know. I think
no.
I think it gets rid of all your parts. I think it's not good.
Oh my God! Can we talk about something else, like maybe vampires?
Let's talk about the vampire virus again. All right, here we are. We are on post-show recaps, talking about episode number 4 of The Strain. And what's the name of this episode? It's Not For Everybody?
It's Not For Everybody, which is, solid advertising on the part of The Strain, because it certainly is not.
Appropriately enough. Okay, we're talking about an episode here where it looks like finally the worm has turned, literally and figuratively, for F. He's finally like, oh yeah, that this is very concerning, what's going on.
Yeah, maybe I should be going around with this old dude and his cane sword chopping little girls' heads off. I think this is a better use of my time.
F's all in at this point.
F's all in, and I'm seeing the cute shipping name of F and Abraham as Ephraim, so I'm on Team Ephraim. I'm with that.
Not Fabraham?
Fabraham's good, too.
Okay. Anyway, so we are live here on Post-Show Recaps. If you want to join in on the conversation, we've got our chat room going here on the site. You can also send us your tweets at PS Recaps. Use that as the hashtag. And also on our YouTube channel at postshowrecaps.com/YouTube. Okay, so let's get into our conversation here for episode 4. Anyway, Josh, good to have you back. Last week we chatted with Antonio about last week's shocking episode. Did you have any reactions when you saw the episode about Gabriel's transformation?
I giggled for like 10 minutes straight. And I'm 5 years old, apparently. I thought that was just so silly and wonderful. It was great. It was great. I thought last week's was very fun. I'm sad that I missed the recap, but Antonio did a killer job, as he always does.
Okay. Yeah, it was very, very fun. We probably spent way too much time on that, but I didn't get too many complaints.
I don't know that you could spend too much time on that. I think that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Okay. So that was a big deal. That was a big deal.
One thing that you guys I don't think touched on at all, and I don't know if we would touch on it otherwise because it wasn't really part of the show last night, is what's Terry Bauer gonna look like when we see her in full vampire mode?
Yeah, we've seen in last week's episode a lot of time with Gabe. This week we spent a lot of time with Ansel, and I wonder if we will get circle back to her at some point. The pilot, we've spent time with him. I was wondering, at some point the pilot went through his transformation. Do you think at some point somebody's just walking around the hospital and they see something on the floor and they say, "Oh, what is this? What is this thing? Is this some guy's junk on the floor?"
Oh man, that's a good possibility. Because where is that thing?
Where is it? Where'd it go? I mean, he was in a tube by himself. It must have fallen off when he was walking around, right?
I am officially endorsing the "Where is the pilot's penis" flashback episode. Do you think that's something that we could push for?
Yes. Okay. Let's go through our top stories at this hour here after another week of The Strain. So it seems like F and Abraham are finally on the same page. Now, where does this go from here? Is this like are F and Abraham like buddy cops the rest of the way through The Strain?
Well, I'm sure that forces will intervene to separate them at some point, but at least they're together now. I think you and I would agree it took long enough. I think you've certainly been vocal about it, and I agree that the F storyline, with the custody battle and all of that, it's been a little hard to get behind when there's so much going on. Otherwise, when the stakes are so high and, a global pandemic seems to be on the rise, it's hard to kind of be interested and excited about F's custody battle. And now he's finally hooked up with the Vampire Slayer, the guy who's got experience battling these things. So presumably, at least with next week, we're gonna find out a little bit more about what Abraham knows about these vampires. We should hopefully be getting a healthy dose of that, and maybe a little bit more concrete info on what his past is like. So I think that seems to be where we're headed, or at least I would imagine that that's where we should be headed.
I think we're getting some flashback action next week, Josh.
Is that what it looks like? Did you see the previews?
I watched the preview, yeah.
Okay, sweet. Nice. Well, I'm into that. Hopefully that means we get some Nazi Eichhorst. That would be interesting. You know, I'm an Eichhorst fan. I'm afraid of that guy, so I'd like to see more of him.
Yeah. Are you doubly afraid of him as a Nazi?
Yeah, I think that would... Are you asking me as a Nazi, or are you asking if I'm afraid of him as a Nazi?
Well, I didn't think you were a Nazi.
Yeah, because I'm not.
I know about you.
I don't think I qualify. I think I would be banned from that organization. I don't think they would accept me. But yeah, I'm afraid of Nazi Eichhorst. That's terrifying. And especially if he's a vampire as he's a Nazi, that's even worse. That's the most terrifying combination known to man.
Were you a little frustrated with Dr. Nora's decision that she was there during the autopsy?
Right.
For her to say, like, what are we doing here? We're killing people. I didn't sign up for this. This isn't what I'm going to go. Like, you know, it's one thing if she's like, I am freaking out, and saying that she doesn't want to be, like, I'm not going to go kill all these vampires, but she seems to be taking the turn that I can't bring myself to kill these innocent people.
Right. I was frustrated by that. I mean, you get it in the episode beforehand when Abraham tells her, you're not ready. You're not ready for this. You're not prepared for this. He basically spells it out that Nora isn't ready to do what needs to be done to stop this epidemic. That being said, she was the first person on the CDC squad to be like, we got to talk to the crazy old man. That guy seemed to know what was up. He had a cane sword. He told us we have to chop up the bodies and burn the bodies. He told us we got to kill whatever's in the box. So she was the first one of, you know, the Jim and F and Nora trilogy, the trio there, that she was the one who was ready to really at least explore the possibilities that some crazy nonsense was happening with these characters, with this plague. And I think the fact that she's so not on board with doing what needs to be done in Abraham's opinion seems a little weird based on where she started. I would think that she would be more ready to accept this than F. So I felt like the roles should have been reversed based on what we had seen so far. It seems like F is the guy who is stubborn enough to be like, no, I can solve this thing, and Nora was more the person on the team who's like, we gotta step back and realize that something bigger than us is happening. So I actually was a little surprised that the roles weren't reversed, or at least that Nora wasn't with F and Abraham.
Yeah, it really was odd, especially because she has survived 2 of these attacks. That she was there when the pilot tried to kill them. Then she was there for the autopsy of the pilot, which was also super gross. We could probably do a whole 10 minutes talking about the gross things from the autopsy. And then she was also there for the attack of Emma and her dad on her and F. So maybe even if she felt that way before Emma tried to attack her, I could see it, but it just seems like after 3 different of these things tried to kill her, it seems odd that she is like, hey, I'd rather get this virus and die from that than go around killing these innocent people.
So I'm really enjoying this show. I think this show is super fun. It's super gnarly. It's really disgusting. It can be very funny. It's got moments of intense drama. I still think back on that scene between Abraham and Eichhorst as one of the best scenes I've seen on TV all year. That being said, like the story of the strain and the stakes of the strain are so high, and the possibilities are so far-reaching and happen so quickly that I feel like the story has to really be moving at a breakneck pace in order to keep up with the spread of the strain. And sometimes I think this show is doing some things to slow down some stories because they need to really milk the drama. They need to spread characters apart before they can get together. And I think that this is kind of an example of that. Like, I feel like it's going to be, in the writer's opinion, better for the drama to have Nora and F separate for a little while before they ultimately get back together, or God forbid, one of them doesn't make it. But I think that for me, it just doesn't really hold water given the world that this show inhabits. I really think that F and Nora would be on the same page on this one. So I'm a little bummed out about that, but not as bummed out as I am about some of the other things that are going on. But I'm also really pumped up that F and Abraham are together. I feel like that is very good for the show going forward, and I think if they're not together for the rest of the way, I think they're at least in it for a little while together and at least going to be on the same page, and that's good to have our main character ready to be in vampire slaying mode. I think that's a very good thing for the show.
Josh, how was the Corey Stahl wig watch for you this week?
I'm getting used to it.
Wigler wig watch.
Wigler's wig watch. I'm getting used to it. Wigler's getting used to the wig, just by necessity. I can't obsess over it, otherwise I'm going to lose my mind.
The one scene I thought it really was an issue was after the fight with the pilot and all through the autopsy. I don't know what was going on there.
Was there would you have liked to have had a scene where Nora's just like staring at his forehead? Like, what are you looking at? It's like you're a murderer.
Yeah, I don't know what they were going for there. That was questionable. I couldn't even concentrate on the alien autopsy going on.
Do you think that that's a plot point that F wears a toupee?
No, I don't think so. But it anytime his hair is messed up, it's it's interesting to look at. All right, let's talk about Ansel. And Ansel, through the last couple of weeks, has been going through some stuff. He's going through some changes, Ansel. And Ansel's wife is also has some interesting things going on as well. And Ansel's dog, who you kind of saw the writing on the wall for the dog, Gertie was not looking good for 2 weeks now. And so Ansel has the foresight to get his wife and kids out of the house after his wife caught him drinking blood out of the steak that was defrosting in the refrigerator. And so he sends her away, but he says, no, leave Gertie. Leave. Gertie's fine here with me. And so they come back, and what is she doing? Like, does she have some sort of OCD, or is she just very religious? Is Ansel's wife, Annie, I believe her name is there an issue with her?
I get the sense that she's very religious. I get the sense that she is very devoted and has a lot of faith. So I'm sure that this whole situation with her husband is causing her to really wonder what the hell is going on and really causing her to question some stuff. Certainly causing her to make some questionable decisions, I would say. But listen, in Ansel's defense, there's only so much steak juice you can slurp before you have to have the real thing. So Gertie had to go.
Josh, why does a dog always have to die on all of these serialized dramas? Why are we always killing a dog?
Because we care about dogs more than we care about people. So it's a shortcut to making us feel bad.
Yeah, I think that's sort of like, oh, that person died. And then it's like if a TV show really wants to punch us in the gut, they won't kill a baby, but we'll kill a dog.
Yeah, you got to kill the dog. Killing the dog is the move because that's really going to be the thing that upsets everybody. So if you want to be talked about on the internets the next day, have your show kill the dog. That's gonna stir up some chatter.
Okay, so when Annie comes home, and it's kind of odd what she decides to do. So she sees the dog, and then she hears some rattling coming from inside the shed, and she opens the door and goes in there. But before that, she's like giving a eulogy, and this is why I think that it's not just that she's religious. She seems like she has some mental issues. She's talking about goddamn airplanes, and for a religious woman, yeah, ideally you probably wouldn't be saying goddamn airplanes. She's talking about goddamn airplanes. They're like missiles. They have to cut through everything. Oh, what's her problem with airplanes?
I don't know. I guess she's afraid of flying.
I don't know.
She's never left home.
Okay, and so they're trying to go ahead and I'm sorry. Actually, I have my order screwed up with her. So she finds the dog dead. Then she goes in the shed. She's doing like a eulogy with the dog later when the neighbor comes.
Right.
And so she opens up the shed, and I'm saying, don't go in the shed. This is a bad call to go.
Yeah, I thought she was dog meat at that point too soon, but I really did. I thought that she was going to go in there and she was not going to come out. So maybe the biggest surprise of the night for me was that she lived.
Yeah, I was surprised.
And I mean, I can't imagine that's going to be the case for too long. But the fact that she even survived, 2 episodes at this point is nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was going to be a ballsy move to kill her because I feel like you don't really see sort of the innocent wife just sort of getting murdered. Even the guy that ends up getting killed. He sort of like he was a major douche. Emma's dad, he at least slapped F in the face. So we haven't seen, unless I can't think of anybody, somebody who wasn't.
Maybe the little girl. But she was listening to The Lion King too much, so she got what was coming to her.
Yeah, I guess so. That's probably the one. But she turned into a vampire. What are you gonna do?
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, that was a bad. That's not a good look for her.
Bad look. And gotta be prepared to kill 12-year-old girls in the apocalypse.
Yeah, and so she goes into the shed, and Ansel has had the foresight to tie himself up with chains.
Ansel, so hot right now. looking pretty bad, that guy.
Not looking good.
Not looking good. He did he also lock the shed from the outside somehow, or was it open? How did she get in there?
That's a good call. That's good. Maybe he climbed in the window.
Maybe that's why he had maybe Gertie locked it first, but then how did he kill Gertie? I don't know.
Yeah.
Questions.
He probably killed Gertie, locked the shed, opened the window, climbed in the window of the shed, and then closed the window behind him, and then locked himself up in the chains, and didn't even put a light on, I guess. I guess they don't like the light, these vampires, right?
I don't think they like the light. I think that's one thing that these vampires seem to have in common with classic vampires. Light's no good.
Yeah. And so
another thing I was thinking, sorry to cut you off, is the fact that Ansel's wife seems to be religious, and she had a cross, right?
Yeah, but does that bother them?
Well, that's what I was wondering, if that was going to be a thing. That's classic vampire stuff. I don't think that we've really seen any of the vampires on this show come into contact with religious symbols, like the cross or the crucifix. So I kind of was thinking, oh, she's just going to pound him in the face, he's going to blow up, but that did not happen. Maybe that's for a future episode.
That'd be great recruitment for the church. If they could prove the whole thing about these vampires do not like the cross, I think this would be a huge for recruitment. I'll be at church this Sunday.
Yeah, sign me up. I'll switch religions in a second.
Come on over.
I'm a mercenary.
Yeah. Okay, so she opens the thing and they're talking to him, and he's telling her that the voices in my head are telling me to rip your throat out. Is that what he says?
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna eat you if you do not leave.
What is the voice in his head? Like, are they like the Borg, where there's just like one voice in all the heads, or does this sort of like is it like being possessed, where sort of like a demon is telling you to do stuff?
Well, it seems like it's the master can speak through all of them. I think that's what Eichhorst was alluding to back when he met with Abraham in the prison. He's like, I'm going to kill you, and the master will watch you die through my eyes. So I get the sense that the master can kind of network through all of the vampires. So I think that there's something of a mind control aspect from the top vampire down. But these guys also seem to have some semblance of individuality, at least Ansel and Gabe, the ones that were not killed on the plane but were nonetheless infected. Those guys seem to be slightly higher order than the vampires from the morgue.
Okay, and then let's talk about then later on with Annie, after she finishes her eulogy and she's gonna bury the dog. Here comes Trip Taylor, who
hates dogs. He probably would have killed the dog if the dog didn't die first.
Yeah, I thought they made Trip Taylor a little over the top, I felt like, where we were rooting for him to die.
Well, I actually really liked it because it kind of felt like classic 80s horror movie where it's like the bad guys, the ones who are going to get eaten by the monsters, are so clearly rotten and so clearly deserving of getting eaten by the monsters that that's the outcome that you root for. So I was kind of really enjoying this scene. Like, I was like, oh, wow, this is going to be great. The wife is totally going to push him into the shed and cross that line, and this guy's just going to have a horrible, horrible death, and it's going to be really good TV. which might make me a horrible person that I'm rooting for this guy to just get eviscerated. But, I think that's just the joy of the strain.
Yeah, you don't think it was a little Sharknado?
There's a little Sharknado, but I think this show's a little goofy. I don't think, this is a weird thing to say. Game of Thrones is not a goofy show. It's a high concept show, but it plays it straight, and it's kind of serious drama. Whereas a show like this has a high concept as well, and has moments of serious drama for sure, but there's a little bit of goofiness as well. I certainly take it that way. You don't have a scene where a bunch of vampires are ripping a mortician apart to Sweet Caroline and not think it's a little bit schlocky. So it worked for me. I think it's not super Sharknado. I think it's a little bit more of an 80s horror movie throwback, but it's definitely a little bit cheesy, and I think that that's kind of part of the deal. And if you look at it that way, I think you'll enjoy the show a lot.
Yeah, and that's fine if that's what the show is, but then don't give me, a 5-minute monologue of F at an AA meeting or, joint custody fight and stuff like that, because that's a different show.
Touché.
So
yeah.
you gotta just pick one tone and go with it. Either we are, a serious drama, or we are sort of, treading into Evil Dead territory. You know what I mean?
I think it can have a little bit of both, but I would be fine without the custody stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So then this guy, what's coming, and I thought they made him a little bit over the top too, because he confesses to that he's the one that beat the dog. What is this guy like? A young Michael Vick?
Yeah, he's a real jerk. This guy.
Not for anything. If you heard a dog going nuts in a shed, and then would you volunteer to give some sort of discipline to the dog? Like, you hear a dog just like insane, like a dire wolf in a shed, like, all right, let me take my belt off and I'll handle this. Like, aren't you concerned that the dog is going to rip you to shreds?
Yeah, I have a lifelong fear of dogs, so I probably wouldn't do this. This probably wouldn't be my job.
The ball's on this guy to even attempt this and to take his belt off. Really?
That was hilarious. Him taking the belt off and you knowing what's coming. I thought that was delicious. I thought that was very funny.
Okay. And certainly it was funny. What is the wife gonna do? She's gonna she seems so happy with herself.
She's the Rick Moranis to Ansel's Audrey too. She's just gonna be getting the bodies and feeding them to her husband.
Is that what she's gonna do?
I think so.
She's gonna find all the people who are the bad people and feed them to Ansel in the shed.
Yeah, feed me Ansel's wife.
Okay. Let's see what else from this episode. Let's talk about the autopsy scene, because
that was a fun scene. A lot of stuff happens here.
Pretty gross. What is F's motivation for not getting anybody else from the hospital involved with this? That I felt like, to sort of okay, we're just going to do our own sort of amateur autopsy down here in the basement with this thing.
Well, I think that everybody has looked at him like he has 1,000 heads. Every time he's tried to talk about the strain, every time he's tried to talk about, well, this is a thing that we can't understand and we don't understand and we really need to contain it and you need to take me seriously, no one's taking him seriously. So I've kind of felt like at this point he is just not trusting anybody outside of his inner circle. I think that he really needs to take this into his own hands. He's shown himself to be, kind of an egomaniac. He doesn't have any perception of other people's needs. It's really all about him. And I think that he thinks that he's the best one qualified to do this thing. He trusts nobody except for himself and Nora, and for a while he was trusting Jim Kent, but obviously he's moly, so he doesn't trust that guy anymore. And I think that those are motivations at play here. I think that he thinks he's the one who can handle this thing, and he also doesn't know if he can trust anyone to pitch in, and doesn't trust that people aren't just going to call him crazy and interfere.
Okay, but if his concern is, hey, nobody believes me, everybody's just going to call me crazy, at the point that he has, the dead pilot, isn't that the proof he needs? Isn't it irresponsible of him to just say, well, let's just burn the body, let's not tell anybody about this?
It's not great.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Don't a lot of people have questions about where did the pilot go? And then more questions like, hey, where did F go? Where did Dr. Martinez go?
Well, if the show follows a logical line, I think those have to be questions that get addressed. very soon. Because
Okay.
I think that those are definitely questions that are going to be on people's minds. And you also got to wonder, we'll get to it in a second, but you got to wonder with Jim kind of being ostracized from that trio, what does he do? What's his next move? And, we've already seen that he's a little bit of a punk who's self-interested and has his own goals and his own interests. So you got to wonder if he's going to sell anybody down the river.
What was the grossest part of the autopsy for you? What are your top 3 things from the autopsy?
Well, I think, just the lack of genitalia is still really nasty. That's not great. Removing the 6-foot python of a tongue, also pretty freaking gross. And then I think
It's just pulling. Oh.
And then I think farting ammonia isn't cool either. Farting ammonia is something that you don't want to do.
Yeah, Sean Astin during that scene, he was like, what is he saying? He was just like yelling, like, this is disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah. What does he say? This thing just shot a 6-foot python out of its mouth. Its dick is gone, and it just squirted an S-load of S all over the table. What the hell is going on? Yeah, that basically summarizes everything that the audience is feeling in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, this is disgusting. And we got to see a lot of the inside of really what's going on, and it was all really gross.
So these things are mutating super super fast, as we could tell, but it's like they're streamlining the bodies and stripping it down only to like the barest essentials, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and they don't need lungs.
I guess not. So do they not? Well, I guess we know that they don't breathe because Ichor's doesn't breathe.
No, I guess so.
Yeah. So that would explain why it doesn't have lungs.
Okay. So let's talk about a couple of the other scenes that we had in the episode. We spent a lot of time with Gus.
Should we quickly talk about the exposure of Moly Moly Moly?
Yes. Yeah. Let's talk about Sean Astin.
Well, I felt like that scene of F punching him in the face was a little weak. I felt like F should have just like been punching him in the face repeatedly. Just one punch and done for that guy doesn't seem like enough justice.
Yeah, for the guy that really is responsible for ending human civilization as we know it, he kind of got off easy with just clocked in the face. Got
off really really easy, and I have to imagine that some sort of horrible demise is in his future, whether self-imposed or otherwise. I feel like this guy. I feel like you hire Sean Astin for like a season and then probably kill him in the first season. So my money is on Sean Astin not making it.
You don't think he's a sympathetic figure though, with the whole wife has cancer thing?
Yeah, I think he is to a degree, and then I think that the only way to redeem that is he has to like throw himself in front of a vampire for Nora or something like that. So I feel like that guy doesn't get redeemed unless he dies.
Okay, so maybe there's some redemption for Sean Astin.
Redemption.
Okay, let's talk about a couple of the other storylines that we're following, but did not have the payoff of some of the other stuff that we really liked from the episode. Let's talk about the return of Gus, the gangbanger.
Weakest story of the night, would you say?
I think it's a toss-up between that and the old guy, and at least the old guy has some connection to Ichor, so I'll say yes. I'll say that is correct.
At this point, you got to imagine that Gus is going to get dragged into the main storyline. Otherwise, why have him on the show at all? And, I mean, you see him cross paths with Abraham at one point in the episode when he returns the clock. So at least there's that. So you think that maybe there's going to be something there. But, you and I were talking about this a little bit before the show started, where, like, you can't have this character not connected to the vampire thing by the end of the episode. By the end of the episode, he's got to be tied up in it in some way, shape, or form.
Well, he was in the first episode. He was the guy that smuggled the casket out of the airport and into Manhattan. Right. And so he was working with Ichor, but now they've done like a 180 where he's sort of like they're painting him into, I guess, a likable character on the show, even though he's stealing cars. But he's almost in the same sort of mold as the Kevin Durant character, where it's just like they're sort of like setting it up where I think at some point like he's going to be part of this Justice League of people that are going to fight the vampire.
Right.
But, right now he's just not connected to anything interesting going on. And the storyline of him stealing a car really had nothing to do with the price of tea in China, in my opinion.
Right. I think the thing is, like with the Kevin Durant character, with Vasily, the exterminator, at least like you get the sense that, and I was very sad that we didn't see him on this episode, actually, because I think he's shaping up to be a very fun character. So you see him, the last time we did see him, he sees that the rats are all kind of congregating to one spot. They're all sort of mobbing this one area, and he's presumably going to go look into that. And you got to imagine that that has something to do with the vampires. I think it's not hard to see how that might connect to what's going on. But with the car thing with Gus, that he's going around stealing cars and he's selling them to Marlowe from The Wire, and yeah, it's cool to see Marlowe from The Wire again, but it's just like, what's really going on here? How is this going to tie into what's going on, unless, he has some sort of Fast and Furious race against a car filled with vampires, which would actually be really cool, but I have no confidence that that's where we're going. So I was a little cold with this storyline. This is the one of the night that really just kind of left me wondering, where's this guy going? Hopefully somewhere cool, because we're obviously spending a lot of time with him.
What do you think of the introduction of the new character on the strain, Cousin Felix?
Cousin Felix. I like Cousin Felix.
Yeah. Who do you like better, Cousin Felix, Gus, or Gus's brother?
I think you go Cousin Felix number
Dig,
one.
Marry, Kill.
Do you want me to dig, marry, kill?
Yeah.
I will kill the brother, because he's a drug addict and he's not going to be of much use to the situation right now. And I'm also thinking in terms of the apocalypse. So he's not going to be of much use when the fit hits the shan. I would probably ding Gus.
Yes, that's right. Gus is the hottest one.
He's hot, right? So
and Felix cooks.
Yeah, so he seems like marriage material.
Yeah, although Felix says Gus is looking a little manorexic. What do you think?
Gus is looking good.
He's looking good.
He's got like prison body. He's good.
He's good.
He's in shape.
What do you think about the scene with the landlord coming to hassle Guadalupe?
Yeah, that landlord's got to stay away from Guadalupe. That's just not cool. He's got to get out of there. I actually did enjoy that scene, even though it didn't amount to anything yet. I'm looking at basically every random supporting character that just shows up on the show, and I'm marking them all for death. I have to imagine that the landlord is just going to get torn to shreds, and we get to see that. So that'll be enjoyable.
It was kind of like in 24 when we kind of knew at the beginning of the season, all right, well, now we know Jack Bauer's torturing this guy at some point. This guy, we know he's getting a gruesome, chalk up a gruesome vampire death for the landlord.
Yeah, he's on death watch, that guy. That guy is not going to make it very far, and that will be exciting.
You think Sean Astin is on that list too?
Oh, yeah, Sean Astin's super on that list. 100%.
100%. Let's talk about the old guy. What is the old guy's name?
Eldridge Palmer. He's the head of the Stoneheart group.
Okay, Eldridge Palmer. He had a couple things going on in this episode. Now, I thought that he was dead from when the Master found him. What was the purpose of Eldridge meeting the Master a couple of weeks ago?
We really got no follow-up on that, did we? They didn't really elaborate on what happened in that meeting. Certainly, the Master didn't heal him like Palmer seems to think is going to happen. Palmer is in this, I think he has said, because he's expecting some kind of miracle to happen for him and his failing health. And I would imagine that did not happen because of how things work out for Palmer later in the episode. He needs emergency surgery after he passed out. So I don't know what happened there. They're leaving that out. That's something that they're not telling us right now.
Well, I thought from the episode 2 weeks ago, I thought it was going to be where they were going to, oh, you want an everlasting life? Oh, don't worry. We've got something for you, Mr. Palmer. Like, just step right up. Come meet the Master. You'll live forever. And right. I thought that he was going to be like, we were going to see him and he was going to be already infected with the vampire virus. But that does not appear to be the case. And so he's sort of in on this. He brings in this woman who's a hacker.
The only thing I can think of, just to interrupt really quickly, is if he's passing out and having his new health issues because his body is like in the process of transforming. If that's what's going on, but that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think that he's showing the symptoms. Like, he didn't have any sort of like the blood in the teeth or any sort of like the first symptoms that we're seeing, like the hair falling out.
His skin looked bad.
His skin looked bad.
But that's I don't think that's like the first thing to go.
Yeah. And so they bring in the woman who's a hacker, Dutch Velders.
Is this a Bond villain? Dutch Velders?
That's my adult film name also. Dutch
my
Velders.
gosh. Oh, I think I've watched some of your films.
Yes. Dutch Velders. So they bring her in, and I thought this is actually a kind of a smart thing. So they need this guy somehow to bring in Dutch Velders because they're going to basically shut down Twitter.
Yeah, you got to shut down Twitter. That's a good move if you are planning the apocalypse.
Yeah. No, I like that part of it. Because then otherwise you're going to have me saying, well, nobody's put a picture of the vampire on Instagram. Nobody's tweeting. The TMZ doesn't have a picture of Gabriel as a vampire or anything like that. So this is a good job here by the show to knock out the internet.
I think they wrote this storyline just for you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
They've been listening to what we're talking about, and I think they know. They could tell this was going to be something that sticks in your craw.
So they're doing a really good job of keeping the disinformation out there, where they made the head of the airline kill himself, and now they're shutting down the internet, and nobody knows why, and nobody can talk to each other, and nobody can sort of trade notes on what's going on. So all that was cool. But then I felt like we probably go one too many beats with Mr. Palmer, because then we bring in, who is this woman? Secretary Pearson. Is this the Secretary of State?
She's like the Secretary of Health, I think, Health Services.
Have we seen her before?
Was she there in that scene where they tell F and Nora that the CDC is no longer the lead on the case, and that's when F gets really mad at his boss, and he's like, "Listen to me, you jerk," and the jerk boss is like, "Take some time off."
Honestly, I don't know. It's possible.
I think that's who she is, but if not, then this would be the first time that we're seeing her, I think.
Okay, so we bring in Secretary Pearson, and so it's important for Palmer to tell Pearson that the U.S. military removed the bodies from the airplane, and she's going to put the country first. So I'm not sure what role she's going to have in all this to sort of get that information out there.
Yeah, she's another mole. She's Palmer's mole.
Yeah, and so then we go back to Palmer, and that they're like very excited to get this liver transplant going, but he collapses, and he wants to know if Eichhorst knows this is happening, but he's not responding to the calls.
It's because Eichhorst is busy. That's a busy dude.
Where is he?
Probably taunting other Holocaust survivors. That guy's a real dick.
Was he even in this episode?
I don't think we saw much Eichhorst at all, other than maybe the first scene with the blogger, with Dutch. But if so, it was kind of a forgettable scene.
Yeah. Are people on... Is FX doing like the 10 for 13 contract with a lot of the actors on this show?
Yeah, I would guess so.
Yeah. So some of the people are just not... We're just not going to see everybody every week.
We're 4 episodes in, and Kevin Durant's only been in 2. So,
yeah.
That's the kind of thing. And I'm sure that we will get an episode at some point this season where Ephraim isn't even in there. So,
okay. Any other thoughts on episode 4 before we jump into some questions?
No, I think let's hear it. Let's hear it from you guys.
Let's hear what you guys have to say. Let's get a couple of questions here. Of course, if you want to get your question in, post them on our YouTube channel at postshowrecaps.com/YouTube. Okay, let's start off here with this question from Carrie S. My DVR went wacky with about 10 minutes left. When the secretary met with Palmer, please go into detail about this part. I can't find it on the internet yet. Yeah, because Dutch Velders got to it.
She got there first.
Best new show out there. Sorry we didn't see The Exterminator this episode. Okay, well, we sort of described what she was talking about with Mr. Palmer, but just basically telling her about how it was a highly classified biological agent, that it was something like experimental from the Army. It got out, and it's safe now for people, but it was just a one-time accident. It's terrible what happened, and continue to spread that lie. It definitely was not a vampire attack.
This guy also on Super Death Watch.
Yeah, this guy is having a gruesome death. Give me the death power rankings. Who's number one? Is it Palmer?
Palmer seems like he's got to die before this is all said and done.
Okay, so we got Palmer, we got Sean Astin, Jim.
Sean Astin, he's toast.
The landlord.
Ansel obviously done. The landlord totally done. Ansel's wife toast.
Ansel's wife. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like that whole storyline blows up.
Okay.
Gus's brother is a big.
Yeah, Gus's brother. He's a junkie.
Hopefully Guadalupe makes it out.
Yeah.
I'm not counting on it though.
I don't think so. Is there anybody else from the CDC like Gus's boss or anybody's too minor of a character?
F's boss.
F's boss.
That guy deserves to have a python tongue through the face. So I think probably.
Okay.
I guess. I really think everybody but the main characters has to die pretty quickly and pretty soon. Otherwise, I'm gonna start getting twitchy.
Okay. Let's go to our next question, and this is from Confucius. Sun Tzu says, I'd like to take a vote on Nora being an early candidate for Most Annoying Moment Award. Okay. Ooh. Early candidate for most annoying moment.
No, I think the AA meeting.
Yeah, that was the worst. Worse than joint custody?
Joint custody wasn't great. I think the AA meeting was just very, I don't know, that felt unnecessary, even more so. At least the custody stuff, I feel like something has to come of that. Like something has to come with his devotion to his family and how he's kind of separated from them right now, and he's going to have to get to them. I feel like that's going to pay off. But the AA meeting was just like another thing that I didn't think we needed.
Exposition.
But the Nora thing was very annoying.
Yeah, it really was. Like, what do you need to see, woman? Come on.
And I think the Gus storyline from this week is a contender as well.
Okay.
At least Nora is involved in watching vampires die.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the Gus thing is going with the selling the cars to these guys.
Need a little more.
Yeah. Is Gus still likable that he's stealing cars?
Was he ever likable?
I think he's a little likable. I feel like they want us to like Gus. I don't think that they're rooting for us to dislike Gus.
I agree with that. I think that he's as likable as he ever was. I feel like he's a troubled guy who is trying to do right by his family and is, a tough guy. And I think that we're supposed to still feel the way that we were supposed to feel about him, which is that he's just like this tough dude who's going to do what he's got to do. So I feel like the needle hasn't moved much for me.
Okay. Let's take a question from Lee Hewitt, who wants to know, when Eldridge Palmer was talking to the senator, did anyone else get an Emperor Palpatine vibe? The way it was shot, the music, and the political manipulation. Josh, were you thinking Emperor Palpatine during that moment?
Oh man, maybe a little Darth Sidious action. Are we gonna get some Force lightning out of this guy?
Oh my God! So then, are we thinking that much like Emperor Palpatine, spoiler alert, Episode 3, is he going to become like one of the really evil vampires? Is he going to become sort of like a cog in this group?
He seems like he's in a powerful position. He's doing some top level manipulation for the vampires, isn't he?
I mean, how much does Palmer know about what's going on?
I feel like he knows that he is condemning mankind to doom. I get that sense because he's saying things like, I want to walk in Central Park one last time. So this guy knows that some crazy, gnarly shenanigans are headed our way.
What about his Smithers? Does he know what's going on?
I don't know if Smithers knows as much. I feel like my boy Curtis Manning would probably do something differently if he knew.
Yeah. Okay.
Smithers also on the Death Watch.
Yeah. Spicy Wasabi says that Nora did a 180 from the opening scene and the last scene. Initially, she said it was self-defense and they had no choice with the vampire captain. But with the girl and the dad, she freaks out. What gives? Yeah. Because Sean Astin was like, he was being such a weenie in that first scene. He's like, I just want to go on record and say this was a bad idea that we did this. You know what else was a bad idea, Jim?
Everything that you do.
Yes, that was a bad idea when you let this virus escape.
Yeah, isn't he supposed to be a Goonie? Isn't he supposed to never say die?
I don't know. And you're right. So Nora was like, Jim, don't worry. You didn't kill anybody. It was self-defense. You're just defending yourself. But then, yeah, in that last scene, she was like, hey, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, she's attached to the kid. I think it was a bridge too far.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know.
Listen, I'm trying to sell something I'm not buying. So
Look, how many like 6-foot python tongues have to be, trying to get you before you say, okay, well, you know what, I think we can kill these things.
I'm gonna guess one more. I think it's gonna take one more for her, and then she'll be like, oh yeah, okay, all right, I gotta kill these things.
Okay. All right. And then, yeah, I think that may be the last question, unless Scott has one more for us. But otherwise, we will start to. Hold on. This just in. Okay. From Quincy Medex says, crazy episode. Love your reviews. Very humorous. What is up with using the small plastic gloves when handling Redfern's body? They are the CDC, and you would think they would use more precaution with an unknown illness. That's fair. I had some problems with the DIY autopsy in the basement of the hospital.
Right. I think you just got to kind of buy into their logic. If they want to do this on their own, they want to do it fast, they want to do it discreetly, so they use what they got. But in a perfect world, I think that they would be better equipped.
Yeah. I don't know what the difference was where when the pilot was upstairs and F was like, hey, get this guy into surgery right now. We need to see what's going on in there. I don't know what changed where like there was nobody that said, all right, F, come with us. We're shutting you out of what's going on here. Like it seemed like he had free reign of the hospital to be able to do whatever he needed. I don't know why he needed to do a secret basement autopsy.
Adrenaline,
yes. So I think I might have agreed with Sean Astin. That was a bad idea. Lee Hewitt says,
never agree with Sean Astin.
Do these people have working phones? Hospital patients are missing. Dead bodies are vanishing. Rats are fleeing sewers. Call 911 for goodness sake. Well, in fairness, Lee, I'm with you up until this episode, but they did make it a plot point that Dutch is clogging up the internet and the phone line. So I think that there are some communications issues at this point.
Doctor's got to make a house call.
But yeah, that is a perfectly fair point until Dutch Velders comes on the screen.
Dutch Velders.
Okay, so this is from Spicy Wasabi. Do you think that Hispanic gangster Gus will join forces with Abraham and F? I think it's going that way. I think he's part of the Justice League.
He's either got to go that way or he's got to get vamped up and become one of Eichhorst's goons. And my guess is that Eichhorst isn't going to want to play that kind of ball with Gus, considering he's a Nazi and probably isn't going to be a fan of having Gus on his side. I think that guy has his tastes for how he likes his people. So I feel like if Gus was to go hardcore with Eichhorst, I think that Gus would not survive very long, and I feel like this show is trying to get us on board with the Gus storyline. So yeah, my money would be moving towards F and Abraham.
Do you think that Eichhorst looked the way he looked now when he was a human, and then that when Abraham saw him and he was a Nazi, then he became a vampire, or do you think he was a vampire back in the World War II era?
Oh, so is it possible that he became a vampire after the fact, after Abraham knew him?
Yes, because Abraham said you look exactly the same. Did he get makeup to look like what he looked like when he was a person, or has he been a vampire for like 10,000 years?
Yeah, that'd be cool if I feel like he was probably my bet is that he became a vampire around the Nazi era. Okay. And I feel like Abraham has to play some role in his vampire origin.
Because it seems weird that that Abraham and Eichhorst, this vampire drama would be unfolding like in the concentration camp. Like, right. It seems weird that, Eichhorst and Abraham could have some sort of like memorable interaction in the concentration camp. And then, like, I don't know, did a vampire break into the concentration camp? And then Abraham that's where he got started killing these things. And then one of the things ended up getting Eichhorst.
I mean, that sounds compelling to me. That sounds pretty good.
It's a good episode.
Yeah.
I suspect he was probably here's my theory. Maybe the vampires and the Nazis were in cahoots, and the vampires like, hey, we need to feed off these people. And the Nazis were like, hey, we got a whole concentration camp of people. Help yourself. Go right for it. And so they were in bed together, and the vampires were helping the Nazis.
That also sounds like a very good episode.
Okay, this is good. The writer's room.
I think the thing is that it can go in a lot of interesting directions. I think we're in a really interesting point in the show, so I'm excited to see how they let that play out.
Okay. A couple last questions. Okay, so yeah, that might be it. Yeah. So who else do you think is in the Justice League? If Gus is there, and then we have our rat catcher.
Rat catcher for sure. Vasily.
Yeah. Okay. Who else is in? Anybody else in the Agents of the Vampire Shield?
I feel like right now that's it. I mean, you gotta imagine Nora's gonna have a change of heart, and she's gonna sign up with these guys. I mean, I guess maybe Sean Astin, but I think he's toast. So I don't know that he makes it that far. Plus, it's gonna be hard for him to get back on F's good side. So I don't think so. Beyond that, I don't know. Okay. I mean, everybody else is like a vampire or so obviously dead.
Yeah. All right. Well, it'll be fun to see how it goes. All right. So if you are interested in getting more of our Strain recaps, the Strain Live, you can sign up in iTunes to subscribe to our podcast feed of this show. You can go to postshowrecaps.com/strain iTunes, Strain iTunes. And you can go ahead and get your subscription to the podcast. And also, please leave us some feedback and star ratings if you are enjoying this show. I guess you could leave us feedback and star ratings if you're not enjoying the show, too. We're not going to stop you.
Do it. Just do it all.
Either one. Okay? And then, Josh, I caught a little bit of the tail end of your Leftovers podcast earlier today with you and Antonio Mazzaro.
Yes, it was great. It was great to reunite with Antonio after a week away from the Leftovers. So we did a little bit of a doubleheader, and we talked about the episode that we missed from the previous week, which was called Gladys and was very intense. And then we talked about last night's episode as well, called The Guest, about one of my new favorite characters on the show, also a Nora, but not Nora Martinez. I think this is a woman who would be more amenable to killing vampires, named Nora Durst. And last night's Leftovers was my favorite of the series so far. So I feel like the show is turning a corner. The show is starting to win me over a little bit.
Okay. And Josh, 24 hours from now, 23 hours from now to be specific, are you ready for The Throners?
I was born ready.
Yes. It's our big Game of Thrones awards show. It's our red wedding carpet event. Yes, it's going to be very exciting for the 14 awards that you guys voted for. We will announce them live, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday night, August 5th.
The Throners are coming.
The Throners are coming. So, yeah, I'm very pumped up for the Throners.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty pumped for the Throners, too.
Yeah. And then this week, are you doing some more Lost podcasting, Josh?
Yes. If you guys have not been following along, we've been doing some special edition Lost coverage in the lead up to the 10-year anniversary of the series premiere. That'll be September 22nd, and we're trying to do a Lost podcast every week until then. And we have done 3 so far. We are going to do another one this week. Usually it's with myself, Antonio Mazzaro, AJ Mass, and Joe Garfine. This week it'll just be me and Antonio, and we've got a fun one in store. You'll enjoy it if you're a Lost fan.
Okay. All right. So let us know what you think in the comments. You have a hashtag for this show, Josh?
Hashtag for this show. Maybe something with Ansel. What do you think?
Yeah.
Hashtag RIP Gertie.
What about hashtag mimosa tree?
Let's do it.
What the hell's a mimosa tree?
I don't know, but I want one. Is it too?
Yeah, he said
late enough?
I caught your dog in my mimosa tree.
So is he like growing drinks?
I don't know. Is it like an orange juice tree? Is it a champagne tree?
Listen, I just want some mimosas now.
Yeah.
So
I'm
into it.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so we are going to be back next week with more recaps of The Strain. Hope to see you there. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.